Welcome to Maiden Mother Crone Tarot, where we hold sacred space for divine divergence. My name is Kayla, and I'm so glad you're here today. On this channel, we seek guidance from the Maiden, Mother, and Crone archetypes in tarot to help women with ADHD get guidance in their life. Today's topic is going to be what boundaries will protect my freedom? What boundaries will protect my freedom? First, I'm going to draw a couple oracle cards. What boundary will protect my freedom? All right. When I focus on my inner light, I see the world through the lens of love. Co-create with spirit. Crow spirit number 17. Porcupine spirit, time for beginner mind. This deck is dedicated to the Maiden. Maiden Spirit, can you please give our dear viewers guidance today on what boundaries they can put in place to protect their freedom, protect their peace? In my practice, I like to dedicate decks, tarot decks, to the spiritual archetypes that I work with. This deck I'm going to shuffle off camera because the artwork on the back is not YouTube friendly. Okay, that came out. And then I'm going to show that on the bottom because the artwork is just easier. We'll go ahead and show cards. Oops. The last deck is the deck that I have dedicated to the Crone. Crone, can you please give us guidance today for what we as women with ADHD can do? What boundaries can we put in place to help protect our peace? All right, well, I'd love to see the world. Let's see if we can scoot everything up so you guys can see. All right, so the Maiden gave us the Tower. The Eight of Swords. And the Knight of Swords. The Mother gave us the Hanged One, which is the Hanged Man. The Three of Swords, which actually came out recently in one of the readings we did. Two of Cups. And the Nine of Pentacles. And then the Crone gave us the Eight of Pentacles, the Five of Pentacles, the Two of Swords, the Four of Cups, and the World. So we're going to start with the Maiden's row. The Tower here, the Maiden is coming through to show us that a lot of us believe that boundaries are this big catastrophic moment. That it comes to this boiling point, that it comes to this point where you just can't take it anymore, and so you have to put these boundaries into place. But then she follows up with the Eight of Swords, which is a self-imposed imprisonment. You're blinded to the truth, but you're loosely bound here. So you could very easily get out of this trap, this mental trap in this case. She's rushing in with this Knight of Swords, with this message, with this clarity to show us that setting boundaries doesn't have to be a tower moment. And even tower moments in and of themselves, they just represent change, right? It doesn't have to be that negative. When I focus on my inner light, I see the world through the lens of love. How can you focus on your inner light and look through the lens of self-love? Boundaries are the biggest form of self-love because you're protecting yourself. When you choose to set healthy boundaries that create peace in your life, that create rest in your life, that create balance in your life, that is showing your self-love and therefore showing love to the world. When you put yourself first, when you fill yourself up first, then you can fill up others. And so while the Maiden is telling us that this doesn't have to be some big catastrophic moment, that this is just a limiting belief that we carry on our own, she is telling you to act swiftly with the Knight of Swords here. Come to your own rescue. 17, co-create with Spirit. If you're not sure of the boundaries you need to put into place, reach out to Spirit. Ask your guides or your ancestors, or pray and ask God to give you guidance. Ask for a fresh perspective, right? The Hanged One. With all this water here, are you emotionally tied up in some type of situation where you think you can't seek boundaries, or you don't want to because you're emotionally invested in the situation? Have you experienced heartache in the past? Again, with the raindrops. Are you currently experiencing sorrow? And maybe that's why you haven't used this lens of love here. Maybe you have sacrificed yourself over and over and over again, and your spirit is so sad. Your higher self is so sad. Your guides are so sad. They're so heartbroken because you keep sacrificing yourself. You really need to surrender to the situation here. Use a beginner's mindset. Step back and see how you've limited yourself. See how you've wounded yourself. And begin to choose yourself so that you can have the peace that you want. Look, this girl here looks like she's in pajamas right here. Talking about our peace, right? What boundaries can protect our peace? So we can have this love for ourselves and love for others. We can create true partnership by establishing what works well for us and what we're willing to sacrifice and what we're not willing to sacrifice. This can also be the sacrifice card. Maybe you have to sacrifice something And maybe that's a relationship. Maybe you have to sacrifice a relationship so that you can create these boundaries for yourself. That is part of the boundary required to open the door for this new relationship to come in, for these new partnerships to come in, for this wellspring of joy, this overflowing happiness. And the mother ends with the 9 of Pentacles. Look at the abundance in this card. You have I think that's a hawk here. She's taking care of herself. She has her nails painted. Look at that braid in her hair. So beautiful. Sunflowers really represent regeneration. They can actually pull toxins out of the soil. And so they're seen as a way to heal the land. Is this something from your childhood that you need to set up boundaries on? The reason I'm saying that is because when I thought of a sunflower regenerating the land, I thought of pulling up old things, right? Out of the soil, pulling them out. So maybe this is something that happened a long time ago and you haven't laid it to rest, or maybe it's something that's been happening since you were young and it's really time for you to sacrifice it here. The Crone Spirit says 8 of Pentacles, which is all about mastery, working diligently, working hard to keep going and not give up. This fellow looks pretty tired and the landscape is very barren. Have you been suppressing your emotions? If so, you need to feel them fully. Suppression is not the answer. The next card is the 5 of Pentacles, which is feeling left out in the cold, left alone, feelings of lack. And we have the 2 of Swords here, and I find it very interesting that she's holding 2 masks in her hands. As women with ADHD, a lot of times we don't even realize we have ADHD because we mask our symptoms so well. Because we mask who we are, what we're struggling with. And that could be due to many things. It could be your family's expectations. It could be society's expectations. It could be even your own expectations that you've placed on yourself. But here in this card, she has no face. She cannot see. But I find it interesting that she's already cut these out. Cut these masks, right? And she's kneeling on the swords. She's extracted the parts to examine them carefully and see which one is the one she shall use. Which mask is she going to be? Is she going to be her true, authentic self? Or is she going to wear the mask that she's more familiar with? The mask that everyone else is more familiar with? What is she going to choose? Is she going to continue to make her soul suffer in lack? And this 5 of Pentacles? And this 3 of Swords, this heartbreak and lack? Or is she going to finally decide to break these limiting beliefs, cut the masking out, show up as her authentic self, and receive the gift the Spirit is giving her? You have an option here to close out a cycle with the world, to close out a cycle of self-sacrificing, of masking. The boundary that you need to establish to keep your peace in this time is the boundary of being someone else, putting on the mask, the boundary of being true and honest and authentic to yourself. Because you're violating yourself over and over and over again when you sacrifice and you mask and you put other people before yourself. Your soul wants to fly. Your soul wants you to see this as it truly is, to unleash these emotions. And it can be really painful dealing with the expectations you've dealt with all your life. But we had the 8 of Cups on the bottom of the Mother's deck, right? That's all about walking away, choosing the path that serves your soul and walking away from what does not serve you. When I focus on my inner light, where does your inner light come from? What lights you up? It's not the expectations of your mother or your father. It's not the requirements that your boss is putting on you that don't align with your job description. I can guarantee you it's not putting up with the snide remarks of so-called friends. You're worthy of love just because you are here and you have life and breath in your lungs. You don't have to pretend to be somebody else to be worthy of love. A lot of times that's why we mask, is we're afraid to show up. We're afraid that we're not worthy as we are. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Start over here. Have a beginner's mind. Look how beautiful the porcupine is. You know, there's a lot of really beautiful art therapy that you can do. And while you're working through this, the expectations of others, sacrificing yourself, maybe you could do an art project where you make, they have the feathers in Native American cultures, would weave them together. Dreamcatcher, that's what it was. I can't remember the word. Where you make a dream catcher. And you weave together beautiful pieces of yourself that you're choosing to accept and choosing to commit to. And once you're done, hold it to your chest and send it love as you're sending love to yourself, promising that you're going to show up as yourself from now on. It's really interesting. I didn't expect this to come through. When I was thinking about this topic, I was like, oh, okay, it's going to be sacrificing too much time, or you have too many responsibilities, or just traditional boundaries that we cross. But ultimately, it makes sense that first and foremost, you have to respect yourself. You have to respect the boundaries for yourself. Because if you can't show up for yourself, there's no way you can show up for anybody else. Focus on the inner light. Look at this through a lens of love. And remember, you're never alone in this. I'm here for you. Thousands, hundreds of thousands of women are going through exactly what you're going through. And we're all learning to show up for ourselves together. It's not a quick fix. You've gone through a lifetime of doing it a certain way. So don't expect things to be fast. Celebrate all of the small victories. But know you're worthy of love just as you are. And you were made to be you for a reason. Sending love and light to anyone that is open to receive. Thank you so much for joining today. If the message resonated with you, please let me know in the comments section. I'd love to know how you're dealing with this in your own life. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell so you never miss a reading. And I hope that we'll see you again. Always remember, come as you are and stay as you become. Bye, darlings.